So once again, good morning from here in New York. I would say good day whichever part of the world you are in. You are welcome again to the Leadership Empowerment Interactive Session. As I've said before, today we are having the lead discussant who opened the year with us, coming back to teach us again. At the beginning of the year, we learned about your personality and how your personality could also enhance you to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself this year. But in that forum, we also discussed about body language, and he did promise that he will be back to share with us his knowledge of that area of subject. So today, we are privileged to have Bunmi with us, leading us in this discussion. Is a known person, and it's not too difficult to introduce him. Just mention Bunmi. Bunmi, synonymous with excellence, synonymous with delivering and turning around a lot of things. Well, let me read what I put up here. He's a consummate business leader with decades of senior management experience in the food manufacturing industry across the supply chain. He's also been involved in human resources management. He was one time the president of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. He's involved in sales and marketing, corporate planning, general management, including 11 years as the CEO of the local subsidiary of a multinational corporation. Currently, he's the managing consultant of Open Wealth Limited, which offers tailored consulting services to help companies of all sizes optimize their end-to-end internal business process and raise organizational effectiveness. Bunmi is a published author. His book, Path to Leadership, was published in July 2020. I've read that book. My wife and I have read it. I would like you to please get a copy of that book. It's available on Amazon. He currently works as a mediator, alternative dispute resolution mechanism, with a special interest in all categories of commercial disputes and family disputes. That shows that he's ready, whether in the corporate or in personal family matters or any area that you may have conflict, feel free to consult him. Various times he's been a member of the governing council, Redeemers University. He served as chairman, Nigerian Economic Summit Group, chairman, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, president, Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, president, Association of Food, Beverage and Tobacco Employers, chairman, steering committee on competition and antitrust reform, member, UNESCO International Advisory Board for the Reform of Science, Technology and Innovation Systems in Nigeria. He is a resource person and member of the private sector advisory group of the Pan-African Consultative Forum on Corporate Governance. So I would stop sharing my screen and invite Bunmi to please lead us on this discussion. As I've said, it is a discussion. All of us are to participate. Is to provoke our thoughts, and as it provokes our thoughts and challenge us, let's also share. Sir, we ready for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, let me start and say good afternoon if you're where I am. Good morning if you're in the Americas. And perhaps good evening if you're more towards the east. I'm delighted to be back on this platform, and thank you, Bunmi and Tony, for asking me to come back. It's always is a pleasure to share thoughts. Just so that we dive in and get done with preliminaries. we have a strange or rather unusual combination in our topic today. Unusual because, or maybe even strange, because each one impacts the other. In other words, your personality affects your body language, or can affect your body language, and your body language can affect your personality. And the second way in which it is unusual is that for many of us, we're not even aware of the degree to which this sort of interplay goes on. And I think the more we get to understand it, the more we get to appreciate how these things work or interact, then the more we're able to either deploy them or understand the kind of communication that we receive from other people, because at all times people are communicating in different ways. But let me start by with a caveat. You know, the whole area of body language is it's not an exact science. In other words, because there are many aspects of it that are still being studied for robustness and reproducibility. As you know, we're as humans and you know, emotional beings filled with all kinds of variations in terms of our feelings. Even the kind of physiology plays a part on what kind of what we exhibit at any point in time. I think I came very much up close to this in my years in the HR. And I found HR extremely exciting, because there you're trying to really interact with people, understanding exactly what motivates people and where they come from. And the first thing that strikes you is that a person in January is not necessarily exactly the same in March, because it depends on what experiences they've had in the intervening period. So people are changing at all times. There are so many things that have impacts on them. It's even more so today because the pace of change is now so rapid, and with the exposure to information, with explosion of information, it's so much out in your face. Therefore, no single body language sign is a universally reliable indicator. But understanding body language involves interpreting several consistent signals, and I'm choosing my words very carefully, consistent signals to support or indicate a particular conclusion. So that's my caveat. However, it is also true that body language affects how others will see you. It may also change how you see yourself, and may actually affect, or in fact, shape who you are. And the interesting thing about it is that you can also make it so affect your outlook in the way you want. But then this is not being duplicitous. It's not being two different people. That's not what you're trying to do. You've got to be the same person, otherwise you will not have integrity. But the point is that sometimes you need to be able to validate your communication with your body language, and that's the area in which it becomes extremely useful. So I start with those caveats. So please bear those in mind as we go. Well, let me just see if the comments in the chat are relevant. Okay. Thank you. Now, okay, let's get on then. We communicate more with our bodies, and I think people give different percentages to it. I don't necessarily want to. In fact, some people would say that as much as 70% of our communication is with our body language, whether it's the rolling of eyes, or the kind of posture that we take, or the kind of way in which we interact or we relate. But it's an unspoken part of communication that we use to reveal our true feelings. We can use it deliberately to reveal our true feelings, or in some cases, it actually comes out, our true feelings comes out, even when we are not expressing it. So it's important to be able to understand this. So understanding and interpreting them can help you to pick up unspoken feelings. It can help you to also decipher what the intent could be. However, please bear in mind the caveat we started from. It's not quite exact. If you pick up vibes, it's usually better to validate them in ways that are more reliable. So body language can reflect your personality, and this is the nexus between your body language and personality. It can actually affect your personality. And if we look at some of these frames, this is about eye contact. It's about an eye contact communicates sincerity. I want you to be able to look into me, into my eyes, to see who I am. In some cases, it could be that I am open for intimacy. I'm open for a dialogue. I'm open for many, the possibilities. In other words, I'm willing to be understood, but I'm also willing to understand. So there's a whole variety. So eye contact is usually very, very important and very, very critical. Now you notice that along with eye contact, there is the posture. Now with both arms down beside you, that is actually communicating an openness. Now people can actually use that deliberately to communicate the fact that I'm open. If you're, for example, attending maybe a cocktail event or some kind of other events, you stand with your hands across your, I'll come to hands in a minute, across your chest or across your abdomen in this way. It could actually be suggesting that you would want to preserve your safe space. And if a lady comes and clutches her handbag in front of her, it could communicate the fact that, well, I really want to be able to preserve myself in my safe space. But if she comes with an open frame, you could actually be saying, look, I'm open to a conversation. I'm available. I'm not hiding behind any screens, and there is nothing that can stand between you and I. Now, for those who know, and those who have the very clear objectives, as women know, you can actually also communicate the fact that I'm open to a relationship. It's strange, it's bizarre, but in some cases it can work. Now these other frames below are in different ways. You're talking, the middle one, you're talking to people. It's important to, you can see the open kind of posture. It allows you to be able to communicate. Usually one foot in front of the other, and that's because it helps you to maintain a balance and to help you. You can see that this gentleman is doing the same thing. It helps you to maintain a balance and helps you to be able to project what you're saying. In contrast, this to the left, hands folded across the chest, is a little. It can communicate many things. It's sort of put offish. It's kind of, and it can also mean that I'm scared. It can also mean that I'm not sure I'm in a safe place, or that, well, okay, I'd rather get done with this conversation quickly. So there are just so many things that you can do, and in each of these, whatever posture you take, whatever you choose, can communicate many things. It can help you to project your communication better, but it can also help you to communicate what you are not saying, to sort of underscore your statement a little bit better. In some cases, though, the posture you take might be unconscious, but it's always better to be able to be in control of what your body language is. It's always better to be able to do that, not in a way that makes you into a bot, into a robot, but in a manner that makes you truly engaging with other people. Now, if I were to say that when you meet a person, if I were to ask people on this forum, when you meet a person, which part of your body do you think people notice the most? Some people might say, oh, it's your face, or it's your eyes, or some people might say it's your legs, or whatever. But more and more research shows that your hands are actually very, very powerful. For example, I could come and say to maybe speaking to a group like this, and I could say that, well, there are three things that are important in a particular situation, and in those things, it can affect each one of you to different degrees. Now, that's one way of saying that. But another way of saying that is for me to say, well, there are three things that have a common impact on you in these kind of situations, and it affects each one of you to varying degrees. Now, you know that immediately you notice that the second iteration is more emphatic, is more communicative, and it's more involving, and therefore you are likely as the receiver to receive this a lot more. So whether it's the odd wink of the eye, or and I've deliberately chosen some very famous faces. Now some of these things, particularly for some of these world leaders, not all of them, but for some of these world leaders, just observe their body language. In many situations, they're actually trying to deploy some kind of body language for effect. I know that in some cases, in some countries, it is also part of the training, the preparation for leadership for them. I know that some other countries, don't care about preparing their leaders, but it's always important for a leader to be able to communicate and to ensure that what you're delivering is received in a particular way. I won't make any further comments, but just observe this, the bottom right. Just observe the body language. And if you cast your mind back to the kind of relationship between the two individuals, you probably will understand the postures that they have taken. Now, I'm not sure if this was deliberate. It may not have been, but this is one case where your body language communicates your personality. It simply throws out who you are. It throws out what you are not saying. And if you contrast that with the middle picture, to all intents and purposes, these are bodies, and you can see the connection that they are making, and the degree to which they are actually communicating. So I mean, these things are very. For quite a few years now, I've sort of made a sport of observing some of the world leaders, and trying to understand exactly sometimes what is not said and what is said. You may not always get it right, and when you don't get it right, of course, it leads you down the abyss. But sometimes you learn more and more. But that's because humans are very contagious. We are, as a species, we are contagious. I mean, if somebody is fearful, for example, you can communicate that fear. If there was a sudden bang in the room, and there's a very fearful person who gets startled, that can immediately infect many other people. If you have an emotion or feeling of security or insecurity, there are things that are easily contagious. We can catch them. So because we are contagious as humans, it's one of the reasons that several people have taken an interest in trying to understand a bit more about the way that people communicate apart from words. Now, body language is an interaction. It is an interaction. It's not something that is just on the side. It's an interaction. Our non-verbal behavior is a language, it's a medium of communication, and we know that communication is a mode of interaction.
Sorry, sir, not to take us back, but the pictures you showed, we just moved away from. They are quite catchy. Could we go through each of them to say exactly what this is expressing from each picture?
Well, I said I was going to refrain from commenting on this one. It's a dynamic. It communicates a dynamic between the two individuals. We know we have a good idea. I also commented on this one. It communicates a kind of rapport. Normally you would want to, if you're communicating with somebody, you either reflect or you either mirror their body language, or you instinctively are expressing a similar thing. So this may not have been deliberate. Now, I cannot say for sure what was going on here. I can only say that this communicates the fact that these guys are buddies. These guys are, and the same thing gets reflected here, for example. You can see that, it is unlikely, let me put it this way, it's unlikely that you'll find these two in this kind of postures.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really the point I was trying to make there.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Now, psychologists take a lot of interest in this thing. They found that those interactions inform our inferences and our judgments. It certainly informs who we hang out with, or who we ask out on a date, who gets hired or promoted within an organization. And for example, there was a particular study where just exposing people to 30 seconds of doctor-patient interaction informs their judgment of the physician's niceness and can predict whether the doctor will be sued or not. Of course, you can tell immediately which part of the world this study was done. It has to be in America, because that's, but it's that kind of interaction that goes on. It can be a predictor of the degree to which the physician might be sued or not. It doesn't have to do with the physician's competence. As we know, the fact that a physician is sued is not always due to issues of competence. It's just how they're liked. It's just how they're perceived. And I'm sure you come across people who say, look, I just don't like the guy. I just, the chemistry just didn't work. Now, chemistry is not really, it's a lot about the presentation of the person. And if you drill it really, you'll find that it comes down to half of it, more than half of it will be body language. Because if a person says, I just don't like the fellow, and you drill down and is willing to be honest, he probably might say, well, I just don't like the way he looks at me, or I don't like the way he responds to me, even when I just say hello. All of that is body language. All of that is body language. And we also know, I'm sure everyone knows, that judgment of political candidates' faces can be a predictor of who gets elected and who doesn't. This is apart from the fact, there are influences about, the tall, handsome person who is not overweight, and how that enhances their chances in an election, and so on and so forth. So really, if you're standing an election, I think a few a few hours in the gym might just help. Because it's the totality of the person, it's the totality of the way you come over. But as in every communication, there is a possibility of misjudgments. And I just must flag this, often due to cultural peculiarities leading to miscommunication. On the next chart, it doesn't really have to do with body language, but on the next chart, I'll just flash a few areas where there has been communication or miscommunication that's influenced by cultural innuendos or cultural peculiarities. For example, in Taiwan, the Pepsi slogan, "Come alive with the Pepsi generation," translated loosely into "Pepsi will bring your ancestors back from the dead." Now, so you got to be careful what you do as you go into other markets. In Chinese, Kentucky Fried Chicken, finger licking good, it became eat your fingers off. That's when you translate into the local local language. Let me look for another one. Paca Pen in Mexico, they had a slogan, "It won't leak into your pocket and embarrass you." They use the word embaraza for embarrass, which actually is acceptable. But Mexican consumers read the slogan as "it won't leak into your pocket and make you pregnant," because the verb embaraza means to make pregnant. So it's, there can be this kind of things. And just imagine if these were words or if these were gesticulations, they can immediately lead to miscommunication. And there are many, many things. Even this kind of sign of, okay, spot on. Don't do it in every clime, because it's not understood or read in the same way. In Italy, and I know this one because the company I used to work for was, had owned this brand. In Italy, a campaign for Schweppes tonic water translated the name very loosely as Schweppes toilet water. So you got to find something else that's acceptable in the local environment that communicates what you want. I suppose the word tonic translated very loosely into something that either purges you or makes you go to the toilet or something like that. So it's all. So misreading body language can also sometimes lead to miscommunication. I just use this as examples here. But as we, just to reconnect with where we were before, we reveal unconsciously a lot about our thoughts and intents, and we're also influenced by our non-verbal behavior, our thoughts, even our physiology. And we can consciously use body language to communicate or influence your face, your eyes, your head movement. And again, read these things against the backdrop of the cultural environment. I think I gave this example the last time we spoke, I'm not sure. I worked in India for some time, and I was speaking to my team at my very first meeting, and one of the team members during my talk kept going like that, and I was sort of initially distracted, but I wasn't going to be distracted. So at the end of it, I then said, "Prakash," that was his name, "is that something you disagree with?" And he said, "Oh, no, I'm agreeing with you." In other words, I was reading his body language, and I thought he was communicating something, but he was communicating exactly the opposite. Again, the way we use hands and arms can tell a lot of things. So when we communicate, that's because our brains engage different parts of our bodies to convey thoughts and emotions. Frequent winking, for example, licking lips, looking away, may suggest untruth. Eyes give away our emotions. Have you ever really wondered why restaurants dim lights? Generally speaking, they tend to be low lights. That's quite often because your eyes give away your emotions, and sometimes, you know, those emotions are best not given away too much. I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm saying. Sitting or standing posture can suggest attitude. You know, those first pictures that I showed can explain this. Our hands can reveal what we don't say, and you may detect a fake smile. There are different ways that people think that you can detect a fake smile, but here is one. Here's a real smile, and it's because you can see it catches the entire face, including the eyes and around the eyes especially. But if I then showed you this one, if somebody shows you this, I can read immediately that this is a fake smile. You're just being polite. So different kinds of body language. So if somebody was presenting this, then I know that he's just being polite, and I can move the conversation in a slightly different direction. But if somebody says this, then I know that there is some congruence, there is some genuine response that is coming. So, but the question is, what's the nexus with your personality? It can be tricky. It can be tricky because people can use it. That it can be a deliberate thing that you put out, but it may also be a true reflection of your personality. And that's really why I started at the beginning to say that the subject I've been given is probably one of the most difficult subjects. It's a strange subject. It's an unusual one because one affects the other, or one can affect the other. And it often will have to be situated within the context of what is going on. So when you consciously deploy body language, it may just be a means of influence rather than a reflection of your personality. So I think what I've tried to do so far is to try and establish, to lay that ground, and we can have a conversation on that a little later on. And I'm going to move now to just do a recap of the personality traits. Now, we went through this the last time, so I'm not going to go through it. And I'm sure everyone on this call is familiar with this so-called Big Five personality types. And I think we often say that each one exists in a continuum. It exists in a band. So it's not a black and white situation. So, for example, openness communicates somebody who is inventive, somebody who's curious at one end of the spectrum, but it can also be at the other end of the spectrum where it is low in openness. Then it can be a preference for routine. So that's the sense in which we use this. But openness is more on the positive demonstration of these personality types. Now the question then is, how does each one of these affect the tendency in body language presentations? Because our total personality reflects in one or the other of these. Now, in some cases, an individual is not necessarily only in neuroticism in terms of his personality. It's just what is the dominant personality traits. So a person who is high in neuroticism does not necessarily mean that he's a lazy person, but it means that that is the dominant trait. Like I said, we won't go into all of this. It's neuroticism is just the degree of confidence versus sensitivity in a person, and we'll see how this plays out a little later in a few slides from now. Okay. Now let's see how we begin to pull them together. Now, some personality types show more conscious regard for body language and perhaps even more adeptness to using it to communicate than others. So that's the first thing. Some of them are more. I've shown 3 here. I've extracted 3 here. Research indicates that body language is more relevant to the extroverted and the feeling personality types than to others. Now, what I mean by the feeling types, now the extroversion is the extroverted type, is the extrovert versus the introvert. But these are also feeling types, friendly, compassionate, that's a feeling type, and neuroticism, nervousness, and so on, is a feeling type as well. So these ones they are more attuned to reflect in body language than the others. But as a group, their sensitivity to it and tendency to express it are greater. It doesn't mean they're non-existent in the others, it just means that they're greater in these ones. Now, these personality types tend to be more conscious of their own feelings and the feelings of others, and it matches their goals and values to be sensitive to physical expressions of such inner energy. So for these people, for these personality types, the body language can be a wordless window to the people's inner worlds. In other words, for these personality types, they are more readable from their body language. An extroverted person is likely to reflect a lot in their body language. Just watch the way that an extroverted person, somebody who is outgoing, energetic, just observe what they do with their hands, with their arms. Observe what they do with their faces and the way they come through. They're more likely to desire eye contact because he's outgoing, that energy, he wants to, or she wants to share it with the other person, as opposed to somebody who is solitary, reserved, withdrawn, introverted, who will be very low on extroversion. So that's one way in which for these. So the point we're making here is for the extroverted and the feeling type personalities, there's a tendency for them for there to be a closer nexus with body language, with the way they express their body language. And we'll see a little later on in neuroticism, for example, where the co-occurrence between neuroticism and depression is startling, but perhaps not unexpected. So those are things that we tend to see. Now, for the other two, the assertive types, we call them the assertive types. They tend to be confident and may exercise greater control over their own body language. Whereas the first 3 tend to be able to exhibit a little more unconsciously through their body language. These assertive types tend to be more conscious about the control over their body language. And body language can present some risks, like perhaps being woefully misinterpreted or telling others more than we like to share. Now, this can happen more with the more outgoing types. You may, in fact, be giving away much more than you intend to do. Now, such body betrayal, as I call them, meaning giving away more than you would have wanted to, can be a problem in certain situations, such as classroom presentations, job interviews, or business negotiation, or even in store. For example, 2 people walk into a store, a department store, and one of them sees something. You see a dress or a tie or something, and immediately, spontaneously, you exclaim, "Oh, Joe, see what I've been looking for." Now, I've been looking for this for a long time, and it just flows out immediately. Now, a smart salesperson knows what to do with that, because oh, you've been looking for it for a long time. Now you find it in my store. How about paying 10% more for it? So if it's a situation now, of course, he may not be able to get you to pay more, but certainly he'll try and get you to buy a little bit more of other things than you intended to. Because in any case, you've been so enfranchised, you've been so enthused by the fact that you found in his store something you've been looking for elsewhere. And if you find it in my store, why don't you, put out your credit card a few more times in my store? So we call that body betrayal, because you immediately are betraying something that could, in fact, get you to do something you did not plan to do. And by the way, in places where salesmen are trained properly, these are the kind of part of the things that they train them for. I'm sure if there's anyone who's been through that kind of training on this call, they may be able to tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, you go into a car dealership, and the salesman is trying to get you by all means to, first of all, he tries to find a basis for interaction. So he tries to find out, and he says, for example, oh, I went to Princeton, and he says, goddamn, my uncle went to Princeton as well. Now he's trying to establish a commonality, because if we are friends, we can do business. So the first thing he tries to do is to establish those areas of commonality. I play golf on the weekends, and he says, my goodness, where do you play golf? That's my favorite at the weekends as well. He's trying to establish something that, and all of that. You're not even talking about the car yet. You're not talking about test driving. All he wants to do is to establish a kind of basis for interaction. Once he can establish that, everyone knows that friends do business with each other. If there's no business immediately, we can always find business to do together. So those are things, and really you might just want to watch out for such things, because you can actually be swayed into doing things. And if you are the type, if you are like me, who doesn't want to put out my credit card when I don't want to, or when I don't need to, I would be very, very cautious about body betrayal. But it's not always bad. For young people, for teenagers, if you meet somebody who you really like, there's nothing wrong with a body betrayal. You can actually let your body betray the fact that you like this person for whatever reason. So it's not always a disadvantage, but the stakes can be high in some personal situations too, such as in love, personal social areas of life, and so on and so forth. So body betrayal, just for our understanding. So that's the kind of interaction. What I want to do next is to move on a little bit and to talk about nonverbal expressions of power and dominance. And I want to, in the remaining part of this, to sort of zero in on this thing about power and dominance, because it's one area that personality expresses itself most, in at least in the human beings. It probably goes back to the beginning, because when we were created, God said, let them have dominion. So we were created for dominion. The only thing is that we were not created to have dominion over other human beings, because he was very explicit. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the cattle, and so on and so forth. If you look at that list, it does not include human beings. But the way we have tended to use this is to try and use it to dominate other people. And those are the kind of things that we still see playing out in the world today. That's what is playing out in Ukraine, for example. It's really just about how do I dominate other people. But let's come back to how this plays out in the area of our body language. You remember the thing I said about hands? Some of these various gestures can be, can be various ways of communicating. And I've just indicated some of them that relate to agreeableness, because this communicates acceptance. This also is about agreeableness. Take it from my heart, take my word for it. What I say comes from the heart. This hands in the back, is some amount of confidence. It can make some people uncomfortable when looked at, because standing akimbo simply means that it can be read in different ways. And if you notice, this gentleman is doing exactly the same thing. So are these deliberate? I don't know, because I don't even know who these are. I just found that these are things that we can use. Extraversion is one way is the hand chopping. Hand chopping movement is for emphasis. Finger pointing. This is it can be misinterpreted, but it's affirming authority. It's a way of talking down on other people. This suggests nervousness or anxiety or being fearful. If you're sort of clutching hands in that way, clasping hands or squeezing hands, and can be related easily to neuroticism, somebody who is a little bit nervous as a personality type. This is openness. Actually, I was doing this in class, one of the postgraduate classes I was teaching once, and one of the students said, "Oh, you do this a lot." And until then, I didn't know. I hadn't really realized that I did this quite a bit. But it tends to be something that's akin to like chess players, because it communicates confidence. Lawyers can tend to do this as well. Prominent lawyers can tend to have that kind of thing. I just put this as an array of different things. But I was going to talk about power. Now, power is really about making ourselves bigger, making yourself bigger than you are. And in some of these displays, you'll find that the arms are, come very much in play. It's really about stretching out. I'll talk a little bit later on about behaviors in class. I mean, somebody does this. You find that it's a way of making yourself bigger. Making yourself bigger means you are actually sometimes communicating power. It's opening up. It's taking up space, and we know that it's not just humans. It happens in primates as well, in the animal kingdom, and not just in there. This is a predator in its own right, and you can see that when it swoops on a prey, it actually makes itself bigger in that way. It's true across the animal kingdom, but it's also true in humans, especially when you feel chronically powerful. Whether you are a media personality or you are, a talk show guru. These are in themselves are expressions of power. Now, this expression of power is universal, especially in a moment of triumph. Just look at people expressing, their in moments of triumph. They tend to do that. Make yourself as large as you can. Make yourself occupy as much space as you are able to, as an expression of power. This is not for today, but if you just observe this gentleman, I'm sure you know who this is, Usain Bolt. I'm sure you have never seen him wear a jersey with number 1 or 9 or single digits. But that's not for today, because sometimes that is is also an expression of dominance in some respects. Now, I mentioned before, I teach an executive MBA class, and sometimes it's very instructive to see the kind of range of non-verbal power expressions, and you'll see that when people put up their hands to make a point or answer a question, it's in that kind of posture. Look at that as well, even during the pandemic. Look at that as well, and look at that as well. Now, sometimes it can be gender related. Now, I don't mean anything here. I'm not misogynist or anything like that. But unsurprisingly, women feel less powerful than men, generally speaking, and therefore you can see that play up here. And when you're facilitating in a class, sometimes, I mean, these are MBA students. When you facilitate in a class, sometimes you just have to be careful that this person, where's my cursor? This person is not necessarily more, doesn't necessarily have more to offer than this person or than this person. But you can see that there's a slight difference in the way that they come over. But, but that's just the way it is. So if you're facilitating, it's quite often important to just bear in mind that the fact that a person is a little bit coyly doesn't mean that they are anxious, or doesn't mean that they're afraid, but it just means that the way that they express the power expression is different. You can see in this top left picture, you can see that she also almost half attempts to make herself larger as well. Maybe not as enthusiastically as she would have wanted to, but that's what you get. So it's also related to the degree and quality of participation. In an MBA program, your participation in class counts for 20%. So it can reflect that knowledge as well, because you want to participate, you want to ask a question, you want to make a comment, you want to push back or disagree with something that the facilitator has said, those all count as participation. I want to do it as your own contribution to the class discussions. It can reflect in the way that you come over. So it can result in observable gender grade gap as well. But usually, for a facilitator, it's important to be aware so that it does not jeopardize, it does not bias your grading in any way. And the fact that somebody has a different posture does not necessarily mean that they have less quality contribution to make. Okay, let me begin to wind down. When you are powerless, you do the opposite. You tend to make yourself smaller. Especially when you are conscious of your relative power situation compared to the person or other people that you are in. If a person at interview who sits in this way is actually a feeling of being powerless, and I'll show you a few poses in a minute. But you tend to make yourself smaller. It's the same kind of thing that comes that expresses itself in us as humans as well. But when you bring a powerful person and a less powerful, high and low power, when they come together, you can see that, you can know who these are. this is the IMF lady. When someone is expressing power, now we tend to complement their nonverbal gesture rather than mirror them. In the case of high power and low power, that's a tendency for you to complement their posture and to reflect your own knowledge of low power, unless you deliberately want to demonstrate power also. You want to sort of bring a match. And so you would tend not to do, to have a posture like this if you are standing with somebody who is expressing power. This is an expression of power. There's no doubt about that. And this is, you know, and you can imagine the kind of interaction that goes on here. It's, what are the kind of things, what are the kind of programs that you will approve as IMF? What can we do that ensures that we can get the facility that we want? You know, that's when you don't feel as powerful as the other person. Okay, but can you fake it till you make it? Is this something that you can deploy but I mean, people find, research shows that in fact it is possible, because sometimes if you truly feel unable to do something, you can make your body help you to be able to get a little bit better, because our nonverbal communication governs how other people think and feel about us. But do our nonverbal expressions govern how we think and feel about ourselves? Are there things we can do? For example, we smile when we're happy, and when we're forced to smile, we feel happy as well. So if for any reason, even if you're not feeling so happy, if you meet somebody who is happy, who's smiling, and because we are contagious as humans, and you get to smile, you tend to feel a little bit happier. You tend to come over your gloom feeling. By the same token, we make ourselves bigger when you feel powerful, and when we make ourselves bigger, we tend to feel powerful. So it's the corollary tends to work. Our minds change our bodies, but our bodies also change our minds. For example, down to hormones, the play between testosterone and cortisol, and so on and so forth. But power posing, that is standing in a posture of confidence, even when we don't feel that confident, can boost feelings of confidence, say when you're making a major presentation or at an interview or something. So to some extent, fake it till you make it. It's like I said, explained earlier on, you're not trying to be fickle. You're not trying to be a double-faced. You're not trying to be who you are not, but it's really depending on the kind of situation you find yourself, where instead of playing to your natural instinct or your subconscious instinct of feeling powerless, you can actually say that I'm not as powerless as I am feeling at the moment. And if you're going to make a major presentation, a posture or a body language that communicates being powerless also communicates to other people that you're not confident. So this kind of thing can help you to overcome that. If you have to make a TED talk, for example, I'm sure you've seen TED talks, you need to be able to come over, because you have a maximum of 18 minutes to do that, to get your point over, and to do it in a way that is crisp and gets people to follow you and come along to understand what you're saying. So you can't get on the stage and have that kind of posture. It's and if you have to practice it beforehand, there's nothing wrong with that. So and that's what I call fake it till you make it. It's not being fickle. It's not being fake. It's simply getting yourself into a posture, into a mode that ensures that you can convey what you want, because your body can affect your mind and your mind can affect your body. So you can actually make your body to affect your mind. All right. I spoke about hormones and things like that. But I mean, in a high power mode, you tend to have more testosterone that makes you tend to be more risk seeking. In a low power mode, you tend to be more risk averse, and that can be an issue for a business person. If your risk tolerance is low, it can affect. It can play out in the kind of things that you do, the kind of business that you are able to do, the kind of risk that you're able to take. Of course, generally speaking, as you get older, this is not suggesting that you take, you just take risks anyhow. That's not what I'm saying. But of course, as you get older, it also affects your risk tolerance. This is just now high power poses. You've seen people who do this, but I mean, what I was saying earlier on, if you do this for a few minutes, like these postures, for example, if you do this for a few minutes before a major presentation, just out in the behind the curtains, just take that kind of posture for a few minutes. It tends to make you feel a little more confident about yourself. This posture of making yourself larger, occupying more space, is good. You will not do this when you are making the presentation, but just do this before the presentation, and just to boost your confidence level. That's some free advice for which I will charge no fees. By contrast, low power pose, coiled up, especially this kind of posture, touching neck, it's not good. It's a very, especially when a person is, this is first your hand is across your chest, and then it's as if you're sort of, it's like saying, get me out of here very fast. It's something that you can actually practice yourself out of. So if you have a tendency to do that, it's important to be able to overcome it. So that, and even sitting postures like this are low power postures. And if you're sitting even in a chat with somebody, or in any kind of conversation with somebody, this is a very typical low power, as well as this one, especially with your legs crossed in this way, is a low power kind of posture. This is decidedly low power. As is this one. This is a low power. This is hands across your chest. Your legs are crossed below. This is not the same as crossing legs in the way that you're at your knee level, but it's crossing your legs in this way. It's like you're seeking support from yourself. So these are low power poses. And if you find that there's a tendency here, you can actually break out of it. You can train yourself out of it. Some body languages that leave not so good impressions. I spoke earlier on about touching your chin, or touching any part of your face for that matter, or like a cocky feeling, authoritative feeling. Authoritative, I mean, somebody is like you're talking down to other people. Anxious feeling with hands clasped in that way, or defensive, especially with this kind of posture of the legs. The upper part is good when you maintain eye contact. That is good, but it's better for the feet to be apart as well. Of course, this is considered rude in many clients. Now, personality traits and depression outcomes, and some kinds of situations that affect people. There are many parallels between neuroticism and depression, which supports their frequent co-occurrence, for example. Part of the treatment, part of the intervention for depression would be this kind of training, for example, so that you can have more of a confidence booster if you are prone to depression. And the combination of low extraversion and high neuroticism has been noted in several studies as a predictor for depression. So if you're, if you're the neuroticism type and low in extroversion, you tend to be introverted. That's a combination that gets people more easily into depression. And you know that depression is something that really grinds you, because once you get into it, it becomes a spiral. And a spiral is something that it can spiral out of control, except if you get some help very quickly. In politics, extroversion seems like the strongest predictor of leadership emergence, but not effectiveness. Now, this gentleman, as some of you may recognize, Warren Hardin, is allegedly, he was president for 2 years. He didn't serve his full term because I think he died in office. Allegedly, he was one of the arguably the worst presidents the America has had. Very good looking, very well spoken, very tall, and everything right, which is normally a predictor of emergence as leadership. I didn't say leadership, but emergence as leadership. So things like winning elections. But reportedly, his first 100 days he spent doing nothing. Let's just be blunt. Him, well, the 45th, again, I'll make no comments. But in business, openness to experience, because that's what openness is, openness to new experience can be an important predictor of leadership. I can be both for leadership emergence and for effectiveness. So that's really what I want to share. I'd appreciate your thoughts so that I can learn a few more from your experience as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll be open for questions. I saw someone already put a question in the chat box. So while we look at the one in the chat box, if you can use your Zoom symbol to raise your hand, we will call you. But let's take this first one in the chat box. Sir, how do you win your supervisor, sponsor, or subordinate with your body language? 2, how can body language in personality plays deceptive game? 3, elaborate more on green snake under the green grass body language.
How can you win your supervisors, subordinates, your colleagues, or whatever with your body language? Well, yes. I have to assume that you are not trying to be deceptive. You are not trying to be who you are not. But if you're saying that, how can I be very positive in my body language? Now, the kind of open body language that I spoke about, would be highly recommended. Open as in not having your hands across your chest, but open in that way, preferably maintaining eye contact. Now, maintaining eye contact, I assume this is a work environment where, cultural things may be less of an interference, because there are some cultures where eye contact can be seen to be, can be misread. Let me put it that way. So with a body language that is welcoming, that is open, that is one. A body winning other supervisors, and now the body language that communicates confidence is another. But in all of this, I think you need to know who your supervisor is, or especially if it's somebody who's senior to you. You need to know who he is or who she is, in the sense that hopefully is somebody that you know, you have interacted with at various levels, so you know what kind of a person. If somebody is insecure, for example, if you have a supervisor who is insecure in their own skin, somebody who is a little bit nervous, somebody who does hand clasping quite often, or somebody who touches face and who does that. Now, you might want to start by mirroring, but move quickly to something that's more confident, in the hope that he or she will then start to mirror you. In other words, he starts to read confidence in you and starts to feel more confident in themselves. Now, if they feel more confident, if you succeed in making them feel more confident about themselves, you're going to win them. And now that's kind of, it sounds counterintuitive, but it is true. It works for human beings. If you make me feel confident or comfortable, then we can work together. Then I have a liking for you, because interacting with you increases my own level of confidence, which I like. So I will tend to take a liking for you. I will tend to gravitate towards you. So if you talk about winning over somebody, so those are the kind of things I can think about. To what extent can it be deceptive? Oh yes, it can be. It can be deceptive. It can be deceptive in the sense that you can present to be who you are not. The only thing is, if this is somebody you are interacting with on a regular basis, you will not be able to be deceptive all the time. So you will become inconsistent, and inconsistency is not difficult to decipher. It's not difficult to read in people. And when people read inconsistency, it can seriously backfire. Green snake under the green grass. That's similar to deception, isn't it? That's like being sly. That's like you can play chameleon. You can be dangerous while presenting to be friendly. At the beginning, you remember I said that for your reading of body language to be anything that you will want to take on, you've got to observe it over a short period, because just observing one body movement it's not advisable for you to reach a conclusion only on one. Well, by the time you read a person, you interact with a person over a period of time, you will tend to find, and of course match their body language with other things that they do, because body language doesn't stand alone. You see, it communicates other things. Observe the overflow of the mouth, because whether anybody likes it or not, what is inside you tends to come out of the mouth, because that's what it is. The scriptures tell us that the mouth, what you say is an overflow of the heart, is an overflow of what is inside, and therefore it can also reflect in your body language. It can reflect in what you say. So green snake, kind of a thing. I think it comes more for somebody who actually is evil, who has evil tendencies, and who wants to present as not so evil, some kind of a serpent in the Garden of Eden type of thing, who wants to engage in a conversation when in fact he wants to lead you astray by their conversation, even by the things that they're suggesting. The thing always is to come with your wits in interacting with other people. Each time I say this, people ask me, does that mean that you have to be so stiff? Does that mean you have to be so calculating in the way you read body language. Does that mean you have to be so meticulous and so on and so forth? And I say, when you do take an interest in it, it doesn't become like you are calculating. It doesn't become like you are it's not like a chore. It's just something that you see on a regular basis. When you sit in a meeting, I mean, when I chair a meeting, for example, or I stand in class, one of the things that interests me is the body language of people. I told you about the experience I had in India with the gentleman, and my response to that was simply to take it on, to ask directly, because his body language was confusing me. So have you know, if I get confused, I will ask directly, what is your body language telling? What are you communicating? So those are the things that I would say. See a few more comments.
Millennials have their own set of body language. Do you know if they even apply to these old interpretations of the body language? That is, do millennials follow this that you have described?
Probably not. And that's one thing I left out, I forgot to mention. Now, there are some things that are human. So whether you're millennials or Gen Z or whatever, or Gen AA, it doesn't matter. The fact that you are human, things like, well, humans are contagious, and even for millennials, you'll find that it's one thing that makes peer pressure so potent amongst millennials, because they influence one another to the degree that their parents will never be able to. It's amazing. For millennials, for example, a teenager can go into depression if you unlike her on Facebook. Just because, why should a person unlike me? And they're counting how many likes that they're, you know, these are all expressions of the same thing, which they give expression to in a different way. But they come from the same kind of roots. They may not relate to it in this way, but they're conveying broadly similar things. They're conveying insecurity, and if a person is insecure, they would tend to pander to their friends. If you observe young parents, and I don't mean to be rude in any way. I'm just making a statement of fact. A young parent, a couple, they've had their first child, they're probably in their 20s or early 30s. You know that they would rather ask their friend who's had a baby than trust what her mother tells her, because instinctively she's saying, "Oh, my mother. I mean, you had a child a zillion years ago, but this other person has had a child, so I can rely more on that." The problem with that is that one, this mother that you are discountenancing actually raised you. And if she got it wrong, you might not be where you are. But these are the kind of things that they're expressions of insecurity. The first thing he or she does is, let's look at what does Google say about when a baby is crying. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you have somebody who has gone through this, maybe even has gone through it 3 times, in some cases 4 times, why don't you just ask and then compare with what Dr. Google would say, instead of just totally ignoring what the experience there is. Of course, that's coming from a slightly different thing. A different generation. You don't know how I feel. You don't understand my world. you're not current in my world, and so on and so forth. They may not be current in your world, but there are basic things that they have an understanding for. But at least you can take on their own experience, and then you can fly from there. I mean, one of the things my favorite comments to my children when they were much younger, especially in their teens, was, well, I mean, you are smart. And I told them at the time, you are smart. You know many things. You have access to information and so on and so forth. But if you stand on my shoulders, you will fly. In other words, can you take advantage of what you have, what is available to you, and then take it along with every other thing, all your other smartness? My shoulders are there, stand on it, and you have immediately an advantage. Thank God they took that. I'm not saying be like me. That's not the point. I would be foolish to ask, if I'm 50, I'll be foolish to ask somebody in a teenager or 20s to say be like me. That's not the point. My point is, right, okay, how have these things been? What were things like? If you were in my shoes, how would you have looked at it? Then you can compare it with what other people feel, how other people say about it, how your peers feel about it. But there's really nothing like standing on shoulders that already make themselves available.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Let's see.
Is basic human etiquette part of body language? Basic human etiquette, it's body language can be an expression of etiquette. Yes. What's your body language in a gathering, when you're in a gathering with other people? If you imagine yourself in a what can I think of, at a cocktail event, or even when it's something less formal than that, there are basic things. There are basic ways in which you tend to be conscious about the way you express. For example, the normal etiquette is that when somebody is speaking, you don't interrupt. Now that can be something that is expressed in body language terms. It's not just interruption, because your body language is, what is your expression on your face? Does your body language tell me that you're only waiting for me to finish what I'm saying so that you can say what you want to say? Now, it's not difficult to read that, and it's not difficult because that's what many people do. I see that all the time. Now, instead of listening, I always call it listening. A lot of people are only waiting for you to finish what you're saying, and then they say what they want to say. That's why it's not surprising that when you listen, if you're a third party, you just listen to two people conversing. Sometimes what they are saying, what each person says, does not build on what the previous speaker said. Whereas for a conversation to be meaningful, you should build on what the other person said, and they should build on what you said. And then you can take the conversation forward. But if you are not listening, it will show in your body language. Invariably, it will show in your body language. And how does it show? You're either looking away intermittently, or you have a very blank expression on your face. That is saying to me that you're just waiting for me to finish. Or, oh yes, or I showed you a fake smile earlier on, or you present me a fake smile. Now, all of that is part of is etiquette, but it's body language that's telling me something. And it's telling me that you are not interested in a conversation. You only want to say what you want to say. So these are things that mind you, I think I have to add this. Some of the body language is not deliberate, it's not conscious. The fact that somebody is presenting, for example, for those of you who perhaps live in Nigeria, and this example is perhaps understood more by somebody who lives here. There was a union strike, a national strike. I mean, the union of workers, they went on strike many years ago, and it was with a government that had its own ways about dealing with quelling riots or quelling disturbances and so on and so forth. Now, the leader of the union then came on television once to announce that the strike had been called off. And of course, he had to then give some explanation in a few minutes, a few sentences on why they had agreed to call it off. Now, the moment he came on television, and he started doing things, if you can see my face, started doing things like this periodically, immediately that told me that he was lying. Immediately. Nobody needs to tell you that he's lying. Why would he need to lie? I told you that it was a government at that time that had its own ways about dealing with situations, including paying him off. I mean, he might have been paid off to call off the strike. And the moment he came on and, displayed that kind of body language, it was very clear that, something had transpired. And what he was saying was really not. So, I mean, there are various ways that people, and when I have a conversation with people, it's when you have a conversation with people, unless it's somebody that you don't feel safe with, a posture that has your bag in front of you or that has your hands like that is sometimes conveying, for somebody who is sensitive to it, conveying the fact that, well, you don't feel particularly safe. You're trying to protect yourself in your safe space. So it perhaps might be something to consciously avoid.
So, my love.
Good day to us all. Thank you for being on this forum. It has been beautiful. And we are here so that, again, we can improve on how we have shown up to the world until now. The spiritual aspect of this was quite challenging. I mean, you think about it, you're talking about body language. What is there to say spiritually? But not until you ask God. There's always an answer and there's always more with God. So here goes. Body language. Body language is the mirror of our inner self, as our lead discussant has rightly said. Language is a mode of communication, we know, and this can be verbal or non-verbal. Either way, it's an attempt to pass on an information. As spiritual beings and trusted ambassadors of God's kingdom, we should be mindful of whatever information we transmit. So this is where it becomes very important. When the body speaks, it is seen, it is not heard. We understand that, and that's what makes it non-verbal. So body language could therefore be intentional or unintentional. It could be premeditated or unplanned, as we have been told. When it is unplanned, it could be a way of betraying who you really are. So then, it's advisable not to have anything to hide. Just be your authentic self that the good Lord has made you to be. Let's look at Nehemiah. Nehemiah's heartfelt sadness for the ruins of Jerusalem was shone on his face as he ministered to his master. And his master was the king of Babylon, King Cyrus. It was this expression on his face that showed what was going on within him that led to the intervention by King Cyrus to assist in the building up of the ruins of Jerusalem. And we know that story in the scriptures. But note that body language and the expression that we make should not be a way of manipulating others. Nehemiah did not set out to manipulate King Cyrus. It was a genuine expression of what was going on within him. Manipulation, as the scripture puts it, is a sin. It's like the sin of witchcraft. So we should be careful. Our gestures on the outside often reflects what we think and believe on the inside. Therefore, the saying goes, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. To upgrade our body language, then, we must upscale our thoughts and belief system. I'll say that again. To upgrade our body language, the way we show up to the world, the way we communicate with the world in a non-verbal way, we must upscale our thoughts and our belief system. Let's look at some examples from the scriptures. Peter and the other disciples, they panicked in the boat while there was a storm. They panicked, they showed panic, they showed fear. And this demonstrated their lack of faith in themselves. Peter, on the other hand, was the one who gestured, as we saw, as the lead discussant, Bunmi mentioned. He gestured probably by raising his hands among the 12 to say, Lord, call me, when the Lord was walking upon the sea. That showed confidence and was a display of power amongst the 12. However, we know he soon began to sink. But then he called for help, again, showing that, look, if you have been up and you are down, don't stay down. You can always come back up again. Let's look at Joseph. Joseph was called by Pharaoh. He intended to show himself ready and able before Pharaoh. We remember the story of Joseph. I won't go into it. He was in the prison. The Pharaoh called him. And what happens in the prison where he had been for so long? It's a place of humiliation. It's a place of suppression. It's a place you probably get depressed, especially himself that was innocent of all the charges that were against him. But what happened when Pharaoh called, when that opportunity came to him to be set free, or he did some things which we should take note of. He washed himself, he groomed himself, and he changed his own clothes before stepping out to Pharaoh. Why do we think he did that? It is how you present yourself that you will be perceived. This was a prisoner moving into the presence of the king in the palace, and he immediately knew to change his presentation, to put forward a good body expression. And then when the whole scenario played out, the dreams were interpreted and everything, what did Pharaoh say? He said, is there any other that we could ask to do this great job? The man was ready. He already presented himself ready for the job. We could interpret it and interplay this in our different areas of life, especially our careers. Get yourself ready, get yourself prepared, be ready for that encounter. Put those things inside you that you will be able to express and express daily what you want people to perceive of you. When that opportunity comes, your name will come up. When it came to the decision, we said that Pharaoh chose Joseph for the job, and he became the prime minister. Your words should match your looks. This was what was expressed and played out in the life of Joseph. The words of wisdom in interpreting those dreams matched his looks. He did not carry the looks of a prisoner into the palace. Jesus is another example for us here. Of course, always the best example. The thought of the process of crucifixion brought so much stressful concern to our Lord Jesus Christ that the sweat that was coming from his body was as blood. Now, it is very easy to put people in a stereotype. Oh, and we could do that for our Lord Jesus Christ. After all, he's the Son of God. After all, he knows his purpose. After all, he knew why he came to the world. We should not put people in a cage, our own cage of perception, but we should learn to be open, as we have been told, in interpreting people within the context and within the circumstances that they present to us. Jesus was also the Son of Man, as he was in the world at the time. And the being faced with death is never anything that is palatable to any human. It was not palatable to our Lord Jesus either. We are told that his sweat was like blood. That means he was in agony. He was in agony. But he immediately brought out what had been stored in him. That is why we must upscale our thoughts and our belief system. He reminded himself, this is why I came. And he said, Father, let your will be done. But did his body language show what he was expressing at that time? Oh, yes. Jesus also, we are told, during that process, stood before Pontius Pilate, and he was asked some important questions, which could actually set him free, because Pontius Pilate held that power at the time, so he thought, as a human ruler. So he asked these questions, and he expected Jesus to defend himself. He expected him to immediately begin talking, trying to convince, using all the body language and gesticulations and words to convince Pontius Pilate of his innocence, to be released. But what does the scripture tell us? At this time, the Son of Man and the Son of God decided to be quiet. He decided to be silent. Sometimes silence is power, is superior. And what we are told in the scriptures is that Pontius Pilate was impressed. Impressed with what? With no words? Yes. He read the body language perfectly. He saw the King of Kings, who did not need to trade words. He saw what he needed to see, and the scripture took time to record that for us to read. We should go back and meditate more on that. It's not only words and expressions. Sometimes your silence can be the key. So he was silent, and we saw how it played out. We also see almost the same thing happening when they were in the storm, and the disciples, they expressed fear because the ship was sinking. And I love that passage because it's so dramatic, and it's good to meditate, putting oneself in that scenario before criticizing the disciples. We are told that there was water flowing into the ship, and the ship was sinking. But what was this Son of Man, Son of God, our Lord Jesus Christ, doing in the ship? The Bible tells us he was sleeping. He was fast asleep. In fact, we are told in some other scripture reference that he had a pillow. And I wonder, was that pillow not wet? And yet our Lord was still sleeping in the same ship? You must know something that others don't know before you keep such calmness in the midst of such great storms, but he did. He did before Pontius Pilate. He did in the middle of a great storm. And when they woke him up and he arose, he rebuked them. He showed them what he had that they did not have. They lacked faith. He said, why? Why are you so much without faith? And what did he do? He took authority. He showed his power and he said to the storm, peace, be still. And so it was. Amen. Jesus, the same Jesus, took the whip and drove people out of the temple of God. He demonstrated anger. Yes, be angry, but do not sin. The motive of his demonstration of anger was clear, and we know it. But he did demonstrate anger by taking the whip and lashing out at them to get out of his father's house. Body language from the Son of God himself. Jesus shed tears at the death of a friend, and for the fact that people misunderstood God's intention. His tears were not only because Lazarus, a very close friend of his, had died. No, but he did shed tears. That's the portion here. He demonstrated sadness. It's okay to shed tears for our gentlemen. Please pass the news around. Don't tell your son to keep quiet and suck it in. Even the Lord, at appropriate times, shed tears. But he did shed the tears. Yes, his friend had died, but he knew what God's intention of that death was all about. And he shed his tears because men around did not know God's intention. It's good to understand God's intention in any situation. Has a calamity or a saddening event happened or is happening around you at this moment? Don't stop at just shedding tears. Seek out God's intentions. His intentions are always good. In fact, that death was not for evil, but it was to glorify God, he said. And did it glorify God or not? Lazarus became one that the world came to see in Bethany, to see who that man was, who was raised from the dead 4 days after passing on. God never does evil. God may allow what the enemy plans to do, but he will turn it around for your good to glorify himself. So Jesus shed tears. But today, thank God, we understand better. Jesus physically stooped. He stooped low. You remember the story? That is a body language. It can be read, like our lead discussant said, in different ways. Was Jesus timid of the crowd that wanted to stone the woman that was caught in adultery? These were fierce, angry men. I'm not sure if women were part of that crowd wanting to stone another woman. I'm not sure. Maybe you will find one or two. Yes, some women are like that. But these were angry men. So let's paint the picture. But then Jesus, we are told, stooped down and began to write on the floor. That same body language that we know does not express power was the one that Jesus took at that time. Why did he stoop so low in the presence of these fierce murderers ready to take another person's life? Well, sometimes, like even the word says to us, we need to stoop low to conquer. Yes, sometimes you back down. Now, in this instance, was Jesus being misread? Well, he was misread. They probably thought he was backing off, backing down, but he was downloading wisdom. When we back down, sometimes it doesn't mean you are cowardly or you are less than or not confident. You stand back to regroup and launch out And that's what he did. He stooped low, he wrote on the ground. By the time he stood up to talk to them, he said, whosoever amongst you does not have sin, be the first one to throw the first stone. And that was all he said. That was deep wisdom from above, said in the right way at the right time to the right set of people. And one by one, they began to throw down their weapons until there was none left. And the woman was asked to go and sin no more. So then, that is another one that shows us not to quickly judge people by how they present. The book of Revelation chapter 5 tells us that Jesus, the Lamb of God, was slain. And though he was slain, it refers to him as yet standing tall. I would crave that we go and read that passage in Revelation 5. How can a lamb, in fact, in first it described Jesus rightfully so as the lion of Judah. And then the same Lion of Judah gave himself as a lamb. That's like stooping low. But this process was with great wisdom, was calculated because he was going to conquer. But he needed to come in that form to achieve his purpose. Revelation chapter 5 then tells us that that lamb, even though he was slaughtered, even though the enemy thought he had taken charge or taken over and won, but that slaughtered lamb, we are told, is standing tall today. Amen. So regardless of what the enemy thinks he has taken an upper hand in your life, in your children's life, in your environment, in your career, download the wisdom of God at this time. Take those steps, and yes, your slaughtered lamb will still be standing tall. And there is an end to everything. And the Lord says, for I know your end. It is good and not of evil. It will bring you to the place I have planned for you. Amen. How do you show up then, dear brother? How do you show up, dear sister? What substance is in you that is about to be seen? Faking it till you make it. We've been told this, and in the context we have been told is true. In the body, when you fake it in the body, you can influence your mind. And when you fake it, your mind also can influence your body. However, my thoughts is that faking it till you make it does not really work in the kingdom of God. So these are two different playouts. With God, you cannot fake it. You have to put the substance in you that needs to be seen on the outside for it to have the power that it needs to influence and impact the people to whom you have been sent. Example, the sons of Sceva. Yes, they tried to fake it. They paid dearly for faking it. Because the enemy finds it easy to tell falsehood from being genuine. And we know the story. They were beaten black and blue by the demon-possessed person. Who could tell the difference between them and Jesus, the Son of God, and Paul, the servant of God? Except, of course, the Lord is supportive of you outsmarting the enemy. Yes, that is why you cannot put a canopy over everything and say, except it is like this, it can't be true. No, you walk with God and let him walk with you. Let him dictate your personal steps that he wants to do. Why did I say except the Lord is supportive of you outsmarting the devil? Not faking it, but working with the Lord in that process. That story is of David. Remember the story of David? When he had to fake madness so that the king, that was one of their enemy camp kings, would not take him and possibly kill him. And he faked as if he was an imbecile, as if he was mad, picking at it on his body, running saliva through his mouth. And the king said, you know what, take this mad person away from me. Don't I have enough mad people around me? Take him away. And that's how David escaped. So never say there is a closed door or this means that. It depends on where you are with God. Only be sure you are taking your steps with God at every time, and you will always be victorious. What we store in us shows up on the outside. We are the light of the world, and we are commanded to shine to the world. His word is that light. His word is a light unto our path. When we keep his word in our hearts continuously, it renews our minds, influencing our thoughts, directing our perception of who we are in Christ. So our thoughts guide what will be stored in the words of God influences our thoughts, and that guides what will be stored in our hearts, and that shows up when we express ourselves to the world. And the light that we express to the world has to be powerful enough to bring the people in the dark out onto the knowledge of our Savior. So we must take time to put the right thoughts in us, to put the mindset. We must upscale our belief system so that we can show up as powerfully as the Lord has proposed that we should show up to whosoever he has sent us to. In conclusion, then, we are extraordinary, powerful creatures made in God's own image, showing up with genuine love, compassion, and grace. This then must be communicated through our body language daily. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, my love. I will quickly share a video.
How to read anyone instantly. 18 psychological tips. When we are meeting someone for the first time, we are bombarded with information. It can be hard to work out what kind of person they are. That's why it's important to understand how we communicate. According to experts, 55% of what we convey comes from body language, 38% from the tone of voice, and only 7% from what we actually say. This means that when we meet someone for the first time, we have to take into account these 3 factors, in addition to what a person's appearance may suggest. So, if you want to gain insight into someone's personality when you first meet them, pay attention to the following clues, starting from the head down. Number 1, eye contact. They often say that the eyes are the window to the soul. The key to knowing which kind of eye contact someone is giving you is to consider the context. For example, if a person literally can't take their eyes off you, it could mean there's a romantic interest. On the other hand, when you look someone in the eye and they can't bring themselves to look back at you, it's a sign that they're either nervous or they've got something to hide. That said, if you're talking with someone whose stare is making you squirm, especially if they're very still and not blinking, something is definitely up, and they may be lying to you. Number 2, eyebrows. If you want to see how comfortable a person is, take a look at their eyebrows. There are 3 main emotions that make your eyebrows go up: surprise, worry, and fear. Try raising your eyebrows when you're having a relaxed, casual conversation with a friend. It's hard to do, isn't it? If someone talking to you raises their eyebrows, and the topic isn't one that would logically cause surprise, worry, or fear, it's a sign that they're feeling pretty uncomfortable. Number 4, smile. When it comes to smiling, the mouth can lie, but the eyes can't. Genuine smiles reach the eyes, crinkling the skin to create crow's feet around them. People often smile to hide what they're really thinking and feeling. So the next time you want to know if someone's smile is genuine, look for crinkles at the corners of their eyes. If they aren't there, that smile is hiding something. Number 5. What they say. If you're meeting someone for the first time and all they do is talk about their wonderful better half or praise their work colleagues, chances are they're a pretty decent person themselves. Studies show that the more people rate others as being kind, polite, loving, and well-mannered, the more likely they are to also possess these traits. However, the reverse is also true. Anyone backstabbing and describing others as manipulative and nasty is more likely to have these traits themselves. It's also possible that they have a history of depression or personality disorder. Number 6. Paralanguage. Paralanguage is nonverbal communication, such as your tone, pitch, or manner of speaking. Basically, it's a fancy way of saying that you need to pay attention to how someone says something. For example, if someone is answering you in monotone, they're likely unattached to your concept and not interested. The use of sarcasm is another good example. When someone uses sarcasm, what the person means is actually the opposite of what the words say. So pay attention to the emphasis they put on words and how they say it. It gives you a big clue as to what their true intentions are. Number 7. Side glance. People that are warm and open to meeting you will have their body facing you and they will look you in the eye. On the flip side, if you've just met someone and they immediately glance away to the side, this is a subconscious body language sign that means they are looking for an escape. Number 8. Frequent nodding. Nodding is usually a sign that someone agrees with you, but exaggerated nodding may signal anxiety about approval. When you're telling someone something and they nod excessively, this means that they are worried about what you think of them, or that you doubt their ability to follow your instructions. On the other hand, frequent nodding could also be unconscious gestures that are cues for the other person to get a move on, just like when a person keeps looking at their watch or touches their car keys. Number 9. Chin and jaw. When someone is trying to make a decision, they tend to rub their chin. They might be looking up, down, or to the side. It's a sure sign that they are deep in thought. A clenched jaw is a sign of stress. Regardless of what the person is saying, this indicates a considerable level of discomfort. The conversation may be heading towards something they're anxious about, or their mind may be elsewhere and they're focusing on the thing that's stressing them out. Number 10. Posture. How someone carries themselves can give you some indication about their self-confidence. For example, if someone is walking upright with their shoulders back and looking straight ahead, that gives the indication that they feel good about themselves and have confidence. However, if someone is slouching over and looking at the ground when they walk, that gives a much different impression. It may not necessarily mean that they have low self-esteem, but that's the message it gives off. Number 11. Rubbing hands. It is believed that the hands broadcast what the head is thinking. When a person is rubbing their hands together, generally it means that they have a positive feeling about something. People usually do this when they are hopeful about something good coming up in the future, and they're excited about it. Number 12. Handshake. You can tell a lot by a person's handshake. Soft and flabby, and they are likely to be submissive or a pushover. Too hard and crushing, and they are possibly domineering types. The length of time is also important. Too long, and it's weird, but too short could indicate some form of conflict. It's possible that the person does not want to make a deep connection with you, but it could also mean that they don't have much time. Number 13. Leaning in or away. If a person leans in toward you, it's a clear indication that they are interested in what you have to say. What you might not know is that it's also a sign of respect. When people come closer and lean in toward you during a conversation, it shows that they want to confide in you. It makes you feel trustworthy and valued. If someone leans back, however, they show that they are tired of the conversation, or perhaps they feel uncomfortable for some reason. Number 14. Holding the baby. Okay, this might seem like a strange one, but it's good to know. If you're meeting someone for the first time and they just happen to be a new mother, look at what arm they used to hold the baby. Studies show that happy moms tend to hold their babies in their left arm, while stressed and depressed mothers usually hold their babies in their right arm. Number 15, crossed arms and legs. Have you ever had a conversation with someone who crossed their arms or legs while you were talking to them? If you're on a first date or if you're trying to pitch someone a new idea, it's not a good sign. Crossed arms and legs are physical barriers that suggest the other person is not open to what you're saying. Even if they're smiling and engaged in a pleasant conversation, their body language tells the story. Psychologically, crossed legs or arms signal that a person is mentally, emotionally, and physically blocked off from what's in front of them. On the same note, the direction of someone's feet are also quite revealing. A person that likes you will have both feet facing in your direction. However, if their feet shift toward the door, it means they've had enough and want to leave. Number 16, shoes. A person's shoes can tell you a lot about their personality. Apparently, we all make judgments about people's shoes, but studies show that they are pretty accurate. Nervous people will have new or very clean shoes. Amiable types will wear practical shoes. Calm people have an affinity for uncomfortable shoes, and aggressive people wear ankle boots. Just take a look at your own shoes. Does your personality type fit in with them? Number 17, overall appearance. How someone dresses and presents themselves can say volumes about them. If the person has their hair in place, their clothing pressed, and they show attention to style, they may be very detail-oriented. Someone with a more casual wardrobe or bedhead might be creative or just messy. And then take someone who looks unkempt and smelly. They could simply be a really lazy person. Number 18, copying body language. If you've never tried to read people before, this is something you probably haven't noticed. But pay close attention to it in the future, because when someone mimics your body language, it means they feel so good about you that they want to harmonize with you. It's a sign that the conversation is going well and that the other party is receptive to your message. This is done unconsciously, as no one walks around with the intention of outright copying someone, but when we're comfortable with people, we have a tendency to do what they do. Some of us are pretty good at reading the signs that people give off, while others are so bad that they need the other person to come out and straight up tell them what's on their mind. Reading people isn't easy, but if you can do it, it's a fantastic skill to have. Of course, everyone is different, so interpreting their words and actions may or may not always be accurate. But hopefully, with these tips, you'll be well on your way to becoming better at reading people. We want to know what you think. When you're meeting someone for the first time, what's the first thing you usually notice about them?
What do you think? What are your questions and comments as we wrap up?
Maybe let me start off on a lighter note. Thank you for that presentation, and a big thanks to our lead discussant, Bro Bunmi. Thank you so much, sir. I remember back then, there was a TV program which was interesting because this was an elderly Caucasian lady from the Roman Catholic Church. She was probably in her 80s, early 80s, smallish, youngish, active, but quite elderly. And her topic every week was on the home, the married home. So I was drawn to her program, and every week I found myself listening. There was this particular week, she was talking about sex in the home and communicating the desire for sex between couples. Now, I'm aware that on this forum, we do not have children, so, but I'm not going to be, I'm just going to go straight to what she said. So there was this couple that called in, and the husband was saying, my wife she never communicates that she wants to be close to me and intimate with me in that way. I'm always the one trying to express myself at such times. And when the wife was spoken to by the lady during at the not to our own hearing, but she spoke with the wife, she came back up on the same program later to say, Mr. Man, what do you think your wife is trying to communicate when her legs keeps rubbing on your legs? You know, and I was much younger then, but it did make an impression on me about body language. The woman was not intentionally doing that, but that was what the woman would do to express herself, howbeit unintentionally. So that was a betrayal of that woman's inner thoughts, but the husband was not getting it until this elderly lady came in to set things right. And that today can also be related to other things that we do and how we could look out to be able to read people's messages that they are trying to get to us and be open. The folding of arms that we were told earlier, and also during the video we just watched, I also came across that as being, it could represent feeling cold. So if you are in a cold environment and your arms are folded across your chest, or you are holding your body that way, it could be that you are cold. So again, it informs that we should try to interpret body language in the context of what's going on and where we are at. We were also told about participation in things when we were shown the pictures of the people in class and how we raise our hands and participating in events and asking questions. I would just like to draw on that fact that also in our careers, participation is key. You know, we cannot stay aloof and not be a part of nothing, no committee, no discussions, no great ideas. And then at the end of the year, we want to be rated well and we want to be listed for promotions. So these are things that we could also pay attention to. And lastly, there's this story I shared this with my family years ago of the woman. She was actually a woman from a race where they are not usually so tall, that she was 4'6", and that's less than 5 feet. But she was, her presentation to the world, her body language was always of someone who was confident, and you would think she's a lot taller than she is. But when you look at her, she's just that size. But the way she would talk and relate said differently. One day, somebody asked her, and I think it was one of her sons, and says, "Mom, why are you, somehow it doesn't match up. The way you look and the way you show up and the way people respond to you when you address a matter, you get results." She responded to that child and said, "On the outside, I'm 4'6", but on the inside, I'm 6'4". And that's how I show up. So we can determine how we show up in the world. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Do we have other comments and contributions?
God bless us all. This is Nima from upstate New York. I just wanted to say, automatically for me, I always have my hands, even as I'm talking now, my hands are always together, either on my tummy or I cross my legs even when I'm sitting down. My legs are crossed because that's how, as students in secondary school in Nigeria, we were told to always clasp our hands together and our legs were crossed under a chair. So in a seated position. It doesn't mean we are blocking people out, but as students, that's what we're taught. I've learned that you sit upright, have your hands in front of you, not holding your elbow, just the two hands together, and you cross your legs. So I don't know what that means. Also, when people are talking and somebody falls asleep, I was told when I was younger that it's not a sign of the person is bored with what you are saying. At least my grandfather told me that. Maybe he was just lying. He said that it's because my voice was very sweet. So I don't know. And we also talk about, we used to read our books to our children to put them to sleep. So I don't, when somebody falls asleep in a meeting now, I take it that they are enjoying my voice. I have a low-key voice. I am very gentle in my manner and mannerism. I smile a lot in my office. My smile is not contagious to other people. I can smile all day long, and there are some people that are just frowning, but I always say they have their issues. So when our speaker said, human beings, they are contagious, my smile is not contagious in that office, but I go all day long with that. So people ask me, why are you always smiling? Why are you always smiling? What are you taking? What are you on? As if I'm taking a CBD oil or marijuana. But I tell them, I am just shining the light of Christ. So different body languages. With the millennials, I will leave that one for a different topic. God bless us all.
Amen.
Thank you. Sir, are you there to respond?
Well, I am. Well, I'll just pick randomly. The thing about your voice being such a soothing voice that it puts people to sleep. I don't know. I wouldn't really take that as a body language signal as such. The truth is that for many people, if you put on say even the Bible, the voice Bible, and is reading to you, that's constant reading. Or you put on the radio, and now that voice creates a rhythm that your body can translate into something soothing and put you to sleep. So it can be many things. It can be that the guy is bored. It can also be that, you know, the voice is so soothing that the body reads it as something that is sort of quietening. And once the body comes at rest, sleep is not very far away. So it's always a mix. You know, I opened my presentation by saying that one, body language is not an exact science, in the sense that an exact science is something that you can always is reproducible in every single case. I don't think that is the case. But and that's why for you to read it, even with a person, it's better if you read it over a period, because a single body language signal usually does not necessarily represent the personality that is involved. So yeah, it's good for you if your voice is so soothing it puts people to sleep. But if it's in a classroom situation, you might need to interject once in a while with a statement that wakes them up. Or if it's a situation where you need people to be attentive to you, then maybe you might need to interject with something that is light, something that, or maybe a question back, or some seeking a feedback, just to make sure that they talk back to you, which makes sure that they are awake, rather than just sleeping off on you. So, I mean, those are the things that I would say. Yes, what you were told back in school, sit with your hands crossed across your abdomen and so on. Well, that was an instruction meant to help you to be ladylike. In other words, to be sort of put together rather than being scattered all over the place. So there was a reason for that. But as you grew up, you had to then become an expression of yourself. And that's the sense in which I showed those things, that if you're having a conversation, it could communicate the fact that you want to protect your own space. You're an expression of not feeling very secure with this person. It's usually subconscious, or if almost totally subconscious, but then the other person can read it as such. So those are just the things that I said. I think those are the only two things I would comment on that I remember.
Any other comment or question?
Well, so, sorry, you said your smile is not contagious in the office. I frankly didn't know what to make of that, because there's some things that are naturally so contagious, and a smile is one of them. Now, if people refuse to smile, then maybe they're still trying to figure you out. Maybe they're still trying to wonder what kind of a person is this, and therefore they are refraining themselves from smiling back. Because really, if you walk up to somebody and you smile, there's something that puts you down. Even if you don't smile, is because you have restrained yourself from doing so. It's like you yawn where other people are. Invariably, one or two other people will catch it, and it's not because they want to. It's just because that's the way it goes. So maybe people in your office are still trying to figure you out.
Wife said something about her raising her voice. I don't know whether you had that.
Yeah, I did. I mean, people have a natural thing. If I meet somebody for the first time who speaks with a very, very, who speaks loudly, like for example, if you met Dr. Nosade.
Yeah.
Now, Nosade was somebody who was very deliberate. He would say things like, "Well, I have been very, very conscious about telling you about this thing," and that's the way he spoke. Now, in some cases, he was very deliberate about that, because that was his boardroom voice, and it was he had become accustomed to it, and it was something that was that became second nature. He had learned it, I'm sure, first of all, to pronounce words in an emphatic way. In a way that ensures that people heard exactly what he said. There's a way sometimes we speak and some words get swallowed, especially at the end of the sentence. Even sometimes some on-air personalities, they're reading the news and then they're saying, "Oh, our reporter was there," and it now brings you the news. Now, I want to say our reporter was there and he brings you the rest of the story. People should hear you. Don't assume that, that this thing. So even in many places, with great respect, it's quite common in the UK, for example, that newscasters, their voice tends to go taper down, and it's almost like, why are you leaving me to guess what you are, the rest of the last few words of what you're saying? No, that's so the fact that you raise your voice, I first want to understand whether that's just natural with you. If it's natural with you, that's fine. There's nothing. I'm not going to make anything of that.
It's natural.
That's it.
I'm working on it and I'm toning it down.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you need to worry about it. People will get used to it. As for maintaining eye contact, again, there's no. There are some people. Fortunately, that generation was my father's generation, who would not expect that a young girl would look up straight at an elderly person? But I think all of that's all cultural. That's all cultural. I think it's all. There may still be some parts of it in Asia. Some parts of Asia, it's cultural. It's sort of out of deference to the other person, and so on and so forth. But if that is that's a natural thing, people will get used to it. People will get to know that, well, maintaining eye contact is this. If they feel insecure about it, they tend to look away. It doesn't matter. But with time, they'll get used to. They'll get to know that this is this person, and that's it. In any case, if you try to go away from it, you are trying to be anything but who you are. So I don't think there's any real issue with it. Keep eye contact. I want to maintain eye contact when I talk with people. So much so that, you know, as I've grown older, this eye has tended to become a little bit lazy and tends to drift. So I actually make a very conscious effort to try and get that eye to look straight, so that I can maintain eye contact with people. I mean, that's the extent to which it's important. I even told my ophthalmologist that, you know, what's wrong with this thing that it seems to be, and he said, well, if you're worried about it, we can have surgery. I said, look, it's not about surgery. As long as I can, I mean, if I wink a bit, I can get it to look straight. And that's it. I just keep going.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, yesterday I was telling my wife, when I was telling some of my friends that Bunmi is coming to share with us today, they said, make sure you bring him back, because in September, he will be 70. They would like to see you at 70 in September, but still looking very young.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. We are grateful.
Thank you for the compliment.
The parting shot today. People are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want. And if they cannot find them, they make them. That quote is from Bernard Shaw. I want to leave you with this today, that with all what you've learned, with what you've known, please make an impact, empower someone else to fulfill their God-given destiny. You are privileged to hear our lead discussant and his wealth of experience and others that we have brought across in this platform. July 15 will be our next meeting, and by the grace of God, we have Engineer Abiodun Fijabi, who will be sharing with us. So if there are no more questions and comments, I'll say thank you. Happy Father's Day, sir. And happy Father's Day to all the men that are there, all the sisters too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.